my response to a tweet. MRTAT, Mr. Tat. My response to a tweet. And today's Mr. Tat is just going to do what Phil Williams do. The question is, how did you get dragged into defending criminals rather than stopping crime? How do you get dragged into defending criminals rather than stopping crime? Whew. Well, here we go. This is referring to the Black Lives Matter movement. We've had some interesting developments over the weekends. It happens all the time, and I'm going to do a special focus on Chicago for a bunch of reasons. But here's my response. You ever been in a situation where you try to find the right words? You try to find the right words to define something, to this and that, or come up with the right words. You try to be politically correct, you try to be diplomatic, you try to be encouraging, but at the same time, you just try to find those words. And when I hear this question, this Mr. Tat, it makes me also see what's happening with this Black Lives Matter movement, how we're having a hard time coming up with a description of this group. Because they have taken on defending criminals versus stopping crime. And so they're doing some very interesting movements and marches and rallies and disruptions. And then we're having a hard time defining them and coming up with something for them because of them taking this stance. And so I've seen people try to call them a terrorist group with the methods they're taking with their stance. I've seen people struggle with calling them hate groups. But sometimes you just get in that situation where you just got to call it like it is. And what Black Lives Matter is, they're a bunch of sellouts. They're a whole group of sellouts. See, the thing is this, calling them a terrorist, that's white. That's America. We don't look at them as terrorists because ISIS is chopping people's heads off. And, Black Lives Matter is not doing that. So the terrorist thing is really a white term. Not the right term. Calling them a hate group. We're accustomed to that too. We look at hate groups as something just a little bit different than black. Yes, they're spewing hate, but they're not necessarily a hate group. But see, since they're black and I'm black, I'm about to tell you what they are. They're sellouts. They're a massive group of house Negroes. Yes, I said it. That's what they are. And see, being politically correct, you don't say that. And, and things like that, you're on TV, you might not say that. But that's what they are. They're sellouts. They're selling their race out because they got dragged into defending criminals versus stopping crime. Look at Chicago. This year alone, over 355 black people have been murdered in Chicago. Close to 1,800 of them wounded. Just this year alone, up to this point. And then you have this Black Lives Matter organization go take the narrowest aspect of black deaths by the police department, in the hands of police, defending criminals. See, not one time can you find the Black Lives Matter people saying that they have shot an innocent black person. They just say unarmed. You heard me make this point time and time again. Unarmed. They are criminals. They just happen to not be armed like the police officer was. And they're defending criminal activity. When in their community, they traded the criminal activity in the community that's killed 355 people in Chicago this year alone. Why Chicago? Because our president is a sellout too. He's selling out his own race. He doesn't ever address that number. Why is that? See, the definition of a sellout is someone who doesn't benefit their race or their people for money. They traded it for money. The people who are paying the Black Lives Matter people, the Black Lives Matter people took the money. The president took the money. They took the goals of the people who's financing them. They took their goals and they selling out their whole race, their whole community to help reach the goals of the people who are paying. I believe it's the Democratic Party that's paying for this movement. Why? Because this is that final death nail to get back to something the Democratic Party has been wanting for decades and centuries. Control over the black race like they used to have. Slavery. So you go take the narrowest things where most likely it's a white police officer you're trying to highlight. They shot a unarmed black man and tried to turn that into the most massive injustice known to mankind. When a brother is killing brothers by the buckets, Planned Parenthood is killing blacks by the buckets, but they're not saying anything about it. The president's not saying anything about it. The Black Lives Matter movement's not saying anything about it because they're sellouts. They're house Negroes. Ask this question, Black Lives Matter. Now that you've taken this stance to where it's okay to kill a cop, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. Now that you've taken this stance and now that the amount of cop killings is rising because of your movement, what in the world do you think is going to happen to your community? Uh-oh, Eureka. You don't care what happens to your community. Because you are a sellout that's trying to help your community get back enslaved. And this time the Democrats will have the support of the world. They'll have the support of America. Because one thing that's not going to be tolerated is that our police officers are being gunned down in the streets by a bunch of sellouts. They are going to go into your community and the people that look like you because you guys got everybody in the community, straight A students dressed with their pants sagging. We can't tell the difference between a straight A student and a criminal. You're perpetuating all this criminal activity in the guises of Black Lives Matter, but you're not trying to fight crime where it really matters. You're protecting criminals that is destroying your community from the inside and now from the outside. So Black Lives Matter, you're not a terrorist organization. You're not even a hate group. You're a bunch of house Negroes and sellouts. That's who you are. And that's all you'll ever be until you start going to address the real thing that's taking black lives. So until then, all lives matter. And as far as you Black Lives Matter sellouts, plantation lovers, peep you later. That's my response to a tweet on The Phil Williams Show.